Hello everybody, it's me Stephanie. I'm making a part 2 of my video about abuse, and my first video I mentioned that my abuse was more psychological, mental, emotional, and it was basically about telling you about myself and a little bit of what I've been through, and also facing evil in the eye. Sometimes we can get so fearful from being in abusive relationships or childhood abuse situations, that even jobs and bosses and everything else, that we're so afraid to I guess do anything about it. We get into that mode of dissociation, and our bodies protect ourselves and blank out or block out, and sometimes we just don't realize for many years later. So that was in part 1, and I wanted to continue that of part 1 really, because facing evil in the eye. And I mentioned in the part 1 of it ends up where you have to turn into a spy and keep notes and keep track and notebooks and everything, because what happens when you're in the abuse is you can get to the point where you don't even know what you're doing anymore. You just kind of introvert or isolate, and time passes by, and more will happen, because these abusers are so evil that they plan and plot and do things in covert ways. It makes you worse. If you don't know it's happening, it gets worse and worse and worse. I never knew what happened to me. I never knew I was abused, and now I definitely know, because as the years went by, it just got worse and worse and worse. They treated me even worse. My health was getting worse. My anxiety, depression, loneliness, everything. And people may think, and they might try to say to you, you weren't abused. You're just feeling sorry for yourself. I never saw it happen. You're just making excuses, they might say to you. They just don't believe you. And if you think back how I was saying in the first video, was I never wanted to, and maybe you're like that too, you just don't want to believe that there's that evil. You don't even want to believe, even when you were abused, you just don't even want to believe it happened. You're protecting yourself. You're having hope. Maybe you're easily forgiving people. You think it's going to change. So a lot of people might say to you, you weren't abused and all this stuff, but it's not true. I mean, you know what happened to you. You might not know right now, but later you'll know. You'll know. You know something's wrong. Like I was saying, you know something's wrong. You just don't know what it is. But you know it's not right. That's the start. So some people deal with abuse different, and then the other people who haven't been abused, or maybe they think they had a bad life, or maybe they really did have a bad life, but maybe they weren't abused. They might tell you just got to press on, press forward, blah, 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 be positive and all this stuff. And I mean, I heard many things. A lot of Bible preachers preach that. And it's just not that simple. It's not that simple to just, when you don't even know what's wrong with you, and you're in that mode of lost and blocking out, I guess. It's hard to become aware. The most important thing I believe in is talk to people that maybe, if it's from childhood abuse, maybe, talk to other people in the family. Did they ever see anything? Did they notice anything? And thank God when you have that one person yes, I saw your dad do this. How'd you live? And you might not find that out till a very long time, though. After a very long time, I'll just say that. My abuse came from my dad. So just so you all know. Don't blame yourself. That's what I was saying. Don't blame yourself, because it's not your fault. How could it be your fault when you don't even know? When you start to wake up from it all, just have to start taking care of ourselves, but it's really hard because when we feel like we don't have any support and help, in my case, I feel I didn't have any help. I didn't have anybody who would understand. I didn't have anybody who would listen. I didn't have anybody who would care. And it just pushed me deeper down into the depression and loneliness and scared and fear and loss of hope and hopelessness and then helplessness. So a lot of people deal with the abuse different, especially the people who can't understand what you've been through and they just won't listen to you. So they may say you're not abused and all this, but you know, another thing that I learned is to, when you're talking to people and stuff, you know, have them define what they mean by that word. Like if they say something, I don't know what, to have them define the word, because a lot of words can mean the same thing as something else. And when you're clear on what it is, you know, you can, okay, my phone's messing up. You can know more about what you're talking about. So I mean, that's kind of like a different subject, but a lot of people too, they, you know, they'll say, oh, you just had a bad life and blah, blah, blah. And you remember press through and all this stuff. And the thing is that, you know, maybe these others that were abused or had the real bad life, which I don't deny, whatever they tell me, sure, I understand. But a lot of other people had opportunities with good jobs. They had family that helped them along, and they, you know, they were able to pay for help, like, you know, who knows, back massages. They were able to take care of themselves, go on vacations and have fun and have big families, blessed with big families, and you know, the jobs and stuff, which maybe they were abused, but they got over their abuse by going that route. And then, so maybe they think they were abused and then they did it that way and they took care of themselves that way, but then they look at you and think, well, we all went through this. We all had bad childhoods. And try not to let that bother you, because, I mean, in my situation, I don't have a good job. I don't even have a job right now. I had an autistic son where I had to take care of him. I don't have money to where I could just go out and buy or get a massage or get my nails done or my hair. I mean, I go 2 years without even getting a haircut. I mean, the longest was like two and a half, and you wouldn't even believe it. I looked like such crap, but I had other things I had to take care of, my son and everything else. His money, autistic son, his things are more important than me. Now, a lot of people say, oh, you got to take care of yourself or something. I get this, but when there is an immediate need of a disabled child in your family, you actually just come last. You do. Eventually, you make it change. But so anyway, when you have to face this evil in the eye, and I was talking about how you have to become a spy, you're not going to be able to become a spy, or you can keep notes and everything, and keep timelines and what people say, you know, as the abuse is going on, or, you know, they're doing it over the phone, or they're coming to your house, or when you're somewhere else, some family gathering, you know, keep track of what they say, pay attention, because when we were abused for all that time, sometimes what happens is we go into that dissociation mode, or that isolation, or that protective mode, and we don't even know what's happening. But when we start to become aware of this abuse, we can start taking notes, we can pay attention, write down things from the past, from the present, and start paying attention. And when you get less fearful and you know what you're doing, and you're saying, okay, I'm going to keep notes, I'm going to do this, I'm going to keep notes, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, you're more aware. It's actually helping you become more aware of what really is going on and what really happened and everything else. And in my instance, I felt I always was being aware, and I was, but I wasn't. We need tips and ideas on how to take care of these things, take care of ourselves, defend ourselves, stand up against the evil. A lot of times, what'll happen, you just have to get away from the people. It's hard when you're a child, but I've been out of the house since I've been 16. I actually got kicked out from my dad. It's a bunch of shit. I wasn't old enough to be on my own. But I had problems way before that. I mean, he didn't love, hug, kiss me, nothing. It was just There was nothing. Just real crude looks, smart. Just, it's so hard to explain, and hopefully through my videos I can tell you what he did. Hit me and stuff, left marks on my cheeks with fingerprints, and 4 fingerprints just left in my face. It's grab me, block me, rip my suspenders, throw me in my room. It wasn't like physical with the hitting things, but it was physical with the blocking or getting in my face, or getting so mad, spitting. I almost feel like that's, I don't know what you call that, okay? And it's hard to explain some of this stuff, but first of all, we just gotta try so hard to get out of the fear, and we have to pay attention to what's going on. We have to force ourselves to come out of that fearful mode and that protective mode, even though we don't even know how we got it. We know how we got in it, but we didn't know we were doing it, so we weren't aware and we couldn't pay attention. And in the meantime, things just keep getting worse, and you're like, something's happening, something's wrong. Because the covert stuff they do, and the real demeaning statements, and it just gets so bad. It's just so sick, but we don't realize. And so we start keeping notes, start keeping notebooks, times from the past, from now. People say don't look at the past. Don't even listen to that. We're figuring out what happened to us, and we need to do this. We do not want to be stuck in this for the rest of our life. Never, ever, ever. Keep track, this and that. Once you start keeping track, you'll start seeing things differently, and you'll be like, wow, this is true. I was right. I wish the fear wouldn't step in to make us so afraid. I wish it wouldn't distract us, but then if you think about it, it's God's way of protecting you. Some things we shouldn't remember at certain times, but then later on we need to remember them, because so we just don't make the same mistakes again, and we just don't keep going back to the abuse. But it's really hard seeing a new light and a new life, especially when you don't have good jobs or medical coverage. That's another problem. I hadn't had it in 8-9 years. I just got some, and real cheap kind though. I don't even want to start talking about that. It doesn't cover anything. But I was saying how you got to face evil in the eye, and you have to actually be tuned into it. And the only way I could was keeping track and notebooks and stuff. But don't let anybody tell you different than what you do know. And try not to get so depressed at yourself because you don't have ways or money or houses or jobs or cars, things like that. Try not to get so bogged down that they'll sink you into the depression too. There's so many things that happen, and you start becoming more aware of how you feel from being abused for all that time, and you start to come out of it and see, you're like, oh my God, I have nothing. You feel like you don't even have yourself. You're like, I have nothing. You're like, what a mess I was in. But like I said, you cannot blame yourself. And get into these groups. Type in narcissism online, Facebook, and get into some groups. Type in empaths. Type in any kind of abuse, any kind of anything like this. But narcissism, empaths, who knows, try sensitive, try anything. Just search and get into the groups and talk to other people that have been through things like you, and then it'll clarify and help you realize you're not crazy. Because I felt like I was crazy for so long, and I let my dad and my brother, you hate to expose people in these videos, but you have to kind of say it so that people know where you're coming from. But now my mom isn't here. She died at the age of 60 with an accidental overdose, and she was always anxiety and afraid and fearful and isolated herself and everything too. And I often wondered, she took Xanax, she took muscle relaxers because of her pain. She ended up having non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. I mean, her stressful life with living with my dad and their divorce kept her like in a prison of abuse, her abuse also. And I often wonder if that's why she passed away, because when they told her she had 10 years to live, say, with a non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and she didn't have any treatment, she didn't want that. And I often wonder, because when I did get the autopsy, it wasn't because of her cancer. I often wonder if the stress in her life and the abuse, it killed her. And that's why I want to do these videos, because if we don't defend ourselves and stand up and find steps to take to with the notebooks and being a spy and paying attention, it could really affect the rest of our life, and that is not what I want for anybody. I don't think anybody should have to go through any type of abuse. I don't even care, physical, mental, spiritual. That's another story. My dad started that crap. Then I noticed emotionally and this and that, but I noticed a lot of people now to this day that are afraid to trust God or get into the Bible or churches or anything because of the spiritual abuse. And that's another topic, but thanks for watching, and I love you and I care for you. A lot of people do. Get in groups and share your stories. Get the understanding and care that you need. Help yourself not to be lonely and stuff, and who cares what the topics are about. You just start speaking it out and really caring about yourself and wanting to help yourself. And it's hard when you're in the hurt mode, believe me. I still have days today. I have a video from last week. I was just crying. It gets too hard. It's a lot of work. It's hard. But tell me that when you feel that bad, you have not been abused. See what I'm saying? So don't let anybody tell you any different. Keep searching, keep pressing, keep hoping. Be around good people. Like I said, not positive people. Good people that will care and listen to you. And it'll help you get to the next day. Thank you for watching. God bless you.